Let's check the mock draft of my guy, Rhett Lewis, that he posted over on NFL.com. Big Ten players in Rhett's top 15. No surprise, Fernando Mendoza as the top player in Rhett's mock. Arvell Reese of Ohio State, his number 2 ranked player. And a few more Buckeyes on the way there in Sonny Styles, Carnell Tate, and Caleb Downs. Makai Lemon has been a big topic of conversation, USC Trojan, Rhett's 11th ranked player. And another Hoosier, Omar Cooper Jr., also in Rhett's top 15, expected to make big plays as a wide receiver. And you see the teams there that Rhett has them projected to. Let's take a look at our big stat brought to you by Gatorade. The most first-round picks from the Big Ten Conference in a given draft cycle. Last season, it set a record in 2025 with 11 Big Ten players. Prior to that, we saw 9 go in 2023 and also in 1995. So let's see, there could be some history on the way, and I know there's always a sunny disposition to Rhett Lewis here with me now in Big Ten Today. Rhett, is this the type of season that the Big Ten could threaten the all-time conference record for first-round picks?
No question about it, and certainly makes sense, Anthony, when you consider that you're talking about a conference that's gone back to back to back as the national champions. It would make sense that, working through the gauntlet of the Big Ten conference season and schedule, that you get battle tested and your draft stock rises as you play in some of those biggest games, which was certainly the case, as you mentioned, they're coming in for Omar Cooper and Fernando Mendoza, who certainly ran the gauntlet and finished at the top of the mountain. So yeah, I definitely think this is a record-setting type of draft for the Big Ten.
And you've been covering this sport and this event at this level for so long. Fernando Mendoza, he would have been an NFL draft pick after what he did at Cal so far. But now the one season in Bloomington, able to turn himself into the definitive number 1 overall pick. The discussion around the number 1 pick is always a bit goofy at times because we're trying to find out and figure out what's wrong with them. How have you seen Mendoza handle this entire process?
Like an absolute pro, which is why the Las Vegas Raiders are going to make him the number 1 selection in this draft. He checks all the boxes. I mean, you go ahead, just laminate the report, turn in the card. It is time. Like a new era in Las Vegas is going to begin a week from today in Pittsburgh when they make him the number 1 selection. He has all the physical tools, but his brain is his superpower. And that doesn't just include understanding concepts and processing it out on the field. That includes his desire, his passion, his work ethic, his maniacal preparation to be the very best. And you know who I think that would resonate with, Anthony? The guy who's the minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders and Tom Brady. So also a Big Ten alum. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to love there about that marriage with the Raiders and Fernando Mendoza.
And it was an interesting and in some ways surprising decision that yet another Big Ten alum was recently signed by the Raiders, where they bring in Michigan State great Kirk Cousins. And it feels like that's going to be sort of the easy on-ramp for a young quarterback, which I tend to love. Historically, I think there's no need to force the number 1 overall pick into the lineup unless you don't have other options. The Raiders gave themselves another option. Do you like that approach that Mendoza would be easing his way into?
Yeah, and I love that Kirk's already talking about the relationship that he's building with Fernando Mendoza, as if the pick has already happened. Like on his 30 visit, which are, each team gets this number of visits with different prospects throughout the draft process. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza was one of the Raiders' official visits there before the draft kicks off, and Kirk was there, and they got to watch some tape together, and like they fit on like a brain wavelength type of comparison. Like they are very similar in that regard. I think he's been one of the comps, maybe more on like personality and the way that they portray themselves in public. Like I think those guys are going to be fantastic together. I think it's a really smart move by the Raiders general manager, John Spytek, another Michigan man along there with Tom Brady. And I think they're going to help each other. But as John Spytek said, like the best man is going to play. And if Fernando's not ready, they can rely on Kirk Cousins. But if Fernando is ready, Kirk Cousins will have played a big role in that.
I agree. Cut from a very similar cloth. And Kirk Cousins, of course, famously his rookie year in Washington, multiple quarterbacks drafted there.
That's right.
And they just sort of had to figure it out early in their careers with he and RG3.
Yeah.
And there are other Hoosiers that are expected to go not only in the first round in your mock, but first couple of days of the draft. And the wide receiver position, that fascinates me because it's kind of the quintessential draft conversation where Elijah Surratt was largely the number one option as a pass catcher for the Hoosiers throughout his time in Bloomington. Omar Cooper Jr. certainly a splash playmaker and an exceptional talent. He's the one projected as a first rounder, but how do you compare and contrast Cooper and Surratt?
By the way, they're the best of friends, too. They're probably two of the closest guys on this Indiana Hoosiers football team throughout that national championship run. And they made each other better. And I was talking to Omar Cooper about that during this draft process, talked about his relationship with Elijah Surratt and how professional he was and the way he carried himself in practice and how that kind of brought out the best in Omar Cooper, which really led to this breakout season this year for Omar. Surratt is a pro now. Like, I think he's going to impact a team early on, and he probably hears his name called in the third round. I think we're just scratching the surface on what Omar Cooper can be. And that's part of why he's going to go in the first round, in my opinion. And I have him going as this third receiver off the board. I really have him kind of right there behind Carnell Tate in terms of overall rankings. I just think you can't teach what he does, which is body control. Like, people have asked me about a comp for Omar, like a professional comp for Omar Cooper. And the best thing I can come up with is Gumby. Like, he just contorts his body so well. Like, he's like a plastic man. I'm like, how does he do this? Remember that catch against Oregon, the one-handed grab up at Autzen Stadium, and then he comes down on his feet, breaks two more tackles, which, by the way, is his superpower. Run after the catch, ability to break tackles, make guys miss. He did it as good as anybody in college football this last year, and I think that'll be a really attractive trait to NFL teams, which is why I have him going to the LA Rams at number 13. But I really think that the athletic profile, the run after the catch, and kind of the potential there for Omar Cooper is what separates Coop and Surratt at this point in the draft process.
I want to get to some of the Buckeyes as well. I want to start on the offensive side, though, because you referenced Carnell Tate, and for whatever reason, folks are curious about the 40-yard dash time and wondering where he may or may not go. Wherever he ends up, you're looking at a playmaker that he runs routes just as smooth as medicated cotton. There is no way to be able to predict where he's going to head in the route tree. So wherever he gets drafted, they're going to get a big-time playmaker.
Yeah, I think he's got wide receiver 1 for a team written all over him, and that's why you make him a top 5 pick or a top 10 pick. By the way, I think there's a real possibility that Ohio State could have 4 players gone in the top 5. Like Carnell Tate, Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, and Caleb Downs. Like, there's a scenario where that happens, which is kind of insane. But for Tate, he just does it all. Like, there's not one screamingly loud, elite trait that just kind of stands out above the rest. But he does everything really well. You mentioned the skill in his craft in running routes, his understanding of spacing, in an offense and where he needs to be for a quarterback. You see him constantly make plays of an improvisational nature when a quarterback is scrambling out of the pocket on the sideline. He's got those great feet that he can tiptoe right there at the sideline and make a terrific catch. Excellent hands. He does not drop the football. He makes contested catches. There's just a lot to like there, regardless of what we're talking about with the 40-yard dash time.
A lot of those Buckeyes who will go in the first round will be on the defensive side of the football. And one good thing in their evaluation, NFL talent evaluators got to watch them in an all-encompassing NFL scheme led by Matt Patricia last season. How do you think that factors in with the evaluation of guys like Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, of course, Caleb Downs?
Yeah, I think it's a big part of it, certainly. Look, Matt Patricia is an incredible football mind, and I think he really expanded the minds and the football IQ and understanding of these Ohio State Buckeyes that we're going to see go. Bottom line, the floor for all 4 of those guys is the 10th pick, and that's where Caleb Downs, that's the last possible spot he's going to go. He's not going to get past the Cincinnati Bengals at number 10, which would be a great place for him to end up right there, staying in the state of Ohio to continue his NFL career. I think you see it in the way that they utilize these players, especially a guy like Arvell Reese, who kind of split time as an off-the-ball linebacker and then down on the edge rushing the passer. You saw Caleb Downs down a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. You'll see him out there covering a tight end. You'll see him in the post, as a deep safety or, out in the slot if need be. And they all kind of got this exposure to different roles and got to, really showcase their vast skill sets in that regard. So I think having Matt Patricia there, gave them a leg up in terms of understanding NFL scheme and then seeing how their skills fit it.
Dylan Thieneman is a player that we're confident will go in the first round. I'm not completely sure how high or how long he may be available. You could see top 15, could see him available later in round number 1. Where do you think is the sort of pure spot that the Oregon safety may end up?
Yeah, look, I think I had him at number 18 to the Minnesota Vikings, which almost seems like a too good to be true type of fit with, Harrison Smith, on his way, out there in Minnesota, and Dylan Thieneman, kind of steps right in there. Now Thieneman's not quite as physically inclined as Harrison Smith was. Now, Thieneman will put his face in the fan. Like, I think we saw that, especially this last year at Oregon, playing a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage and some of those 3 safety looks that the Ducks would run out there. And I think NFL teams really respect his ability to find collisions. But I really liked him in that Ryan Walters defense where he was kind of playing that post safety and was that ball hawking guy. He was a freshman All-American, picking passes off left and right. But I think what he showed you now is he can do a lot of different things there. And Minnesota defensive coordinator Brian Flores loves to kind of move chess pieces around in that defense. It's very aggressive. I think Thieneman's a great fit there, but he might be gone by the time the Vikings are on the clock at 18. I think the Cowboys at 12 is a place where you kind of start to put Dylan Thieneman on alert as a place where he could hear his name called.
Rhett, as always, man, fantastic stuff. Looking forward to your coverage with the NFL Network on draft weekend. I see Fernando Mendoza.
Just wait a minute. It's ready to go. The draft card is here. We're just sending it to Pittsburgh.
Rhett's going to turn it in for the commish.
Yeah.